Hi everyone, Stacy Whiter here on behalf of Campus Mortgage with part 3 of a 3-part video series reviewing Fannie Mae's property insurance requirements. Now just a quick reminder before we get started, this video is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice or used in place of Fannie Mae guidelines. Also, this video was issued on January 16th, 2018 and the information contained in this video is subject to change without notice. Alright, so what I'm going to walk you through next is a step-by-step process that Fannie Mae has created to help you determine the amount of required property insurance. So let's take a look at the steps. Step 1 is to compare the insurable value of the improvements established by the property insurer to the unpaid principal balance. Then the next step would be if the insurable value of the improvements is less than the unpaid principal balance, then the insurable value is going to be the amount of the required coverage. Now, if the unpaid balance is less than the insurable value of the improvements, you're going to go to the next step, which is to calculate 80% of the insurable value of the improvements. The result of that calculation, if the result is less than or equal to the unpaid principal balance, then you're going to use the unpaid principal balance as the amount of the coverage required. Now, if the result is instead more than or greater than the unpaid principal balance, then you're going to use that calculated figure as the required coverage amount. So let's take a look at an example to make this a little bit easier to understand. Okay, so we have our table here. Let's take a look at property A. So in this example, the insurable value is $150,000. So if we start off with step 1, we would compare the insurable value of the improvements to the unpaid principal balance. Well, in this example, the unpaid principal balance is $155,000. So let's go to the next step. If the insurable value $150,000 is less than the unpaid principal balance, $155,000, then the insurable value is the amount of the coverage required. So in this case, because the insurable value is less than the unpaid principal balance, the required coverage is going to be $150,000. Now let's take a look at another example. So on property B, we have an insurable value of $200,000. So starting with step 1, compare the insurable value to the unpaid principal balance. The unpaid principal balance is $190,000. So in step 1A, if the insurable value is less than the unpaid principal balance, then we're going to use the insurable value as the coverage amount. Well, that's not the case in this example. So the insurable value is actually greater than the unpaid principal balance. So let's go to step 1B, where it says if the unpaid principal balance of the loan is less than the insurable value, then go to step 2. In step 2, we're going to calculate 80% of the insurable value of the improvements. So 80% of $200,000 is $160,000. Now let's go to step 2A. If the result of your calculation is less than or equal to the unpaid principal balance, so is $160,000 less than $190,000? The answer is yes. Then you would use the unpaid balance as the amount of the coverage required. So the coverage required in this example is $190,000. If the opposite was true, so if the calculation was greater than the unpaid balance, then you would use the calculated figure as the required coverage amount. Alright everyone, that concludes part 3 of our 3-part video series. Thanks so much for watching. For more tips and videos, please visit campusmortgage.org to look for their weekly mortgage video tips designed for all mortgage professionals, including underwriters, loan officers, processors, closers, and post-closers. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.